Hello everyone and welcome to the program Midday Discourse. Rather, I would say a special edition of Midday Discourse, as we have witnessed, yes, now we have all the United States of America rather have a 47th president, and not some persons are shocked about the current results, and some persons were not shocked at all because of the fact that they were expecting Donald Jr. Trump to be returned back for the second term into the White House, and a lot of persons have voted. But before we got to this stage, a whole lot of drama have happened, where attempt on the current president's life, who is now the 47th sitting president of the United States of America, Donald Jr. Trump. So a whole lot of controversies have been going on, and it has been exciting and back and forth going on so far. So finally, the election is here, it's done, and then results have been in, and a new president has emerged for the United States of America. We'll be extracting most of those talking points, and I'll be having my colleagues and my friends and people who I celebrate so much in the world of journalism, who would help us understand the back and forth, how the electoral process in the United States have evolved, and how seamless it is, because there was no report of election tampering, there was no report of beavers or electoral materials failing. So I have in the studio with me here a very good friend and a brother who we have been on a journey of journalism and then extracting a lot of issues dealing with human-related lives. My brother with me in the studio, Mike Edikan.
Samuel, it's the afternoon here, probably just hours ahead of the United States.
Yes.
A lot of projection, just as you started clearly. Issues of United States election, very colorfully, and it looks at what people expected, has really been the result. Because, as you said, it's not really coming as a surprise for some persons. That those that feel, Donald Trump, ought to probably have been the president of 2020.
Yes.
I recall that we may say this is an historic comeback. Historic comeback in the sense that he has fought so many battles, litigation, impeachment,
even attempt on his life,
even during the campaign and all of that. So all of that has given room for people to say this is a job well done. But away from just congratulating and celebrating Donald Trump's life, that those that are paying attention to the issues. What are the issues here? United States was really, the election was based on issues of immigrations and people coming into the country, the borders and all of that, issues of racism in the country, and issues of supporting Israel and all of that. So there were factors that really shaped the election. So here is a projection that the people of the United States have spoken, and this time they've spoken loudly that Donald Trump it was really needed and wanted at a time like this in the world to have a president who can really stand firm. But we celebrate, the Kamala Harris, one who probably wasn't she didn't expect to be the presidential candidate
to start with in the first place. Yes,
Biden, just stepped down and asked her to come into the shoes. So she gladly did. And when you look at the projection of what we're having, that's coming in over 65,981,411 votes for Harris. She really put a whole lot of fights.
Yes.
Because this is not the first time. So when people want to say gender issues, this is not the first time we have a female candidate from the US. But it looks that United States are not ready for a woman, a female president. So there are all of that consideration. But it's also a template that democracy has really stand tall. We've not had issues of, as we earlier said, beavers failing, or
electoral malfunctions,
materials
not
available, arriving late and all of that. United States over and over again have shown to the world that, they have grown past that era of election. So we give it to them. They are institutions that conducted elections. The candidate, I know, it looked some point, he got so, so hard and tough for the candidate where, they were really facing each other squarely, having to look at a lot of interpretation to the case. But in all of that, the results that have just been out has confirmed the victory of the United States. Yeah,
aside from, like you rightly mentioned, aside from congratulating him, at a time like this in the world globally, there's a whole lot of back and forth going on. We've seen the invasion in Russia, Ukraine, Israel also, and other parts of, the Europe going on loggerheads in terms of, fighting wars. One of the speech. We'll get into all of those angles of the conversation. Before, I just want to give you a nitpick. Donald Trump has made mention during his campaigns of the fact that he said he's going to address the world challenges. Do you think he has what it takes? And do you think he's coming in as a president at a time that the world needs a very strong leader as Donald Trump?
Yeah, we give it to him because when you look at some of his policies and how he approaches issues, I mean, he's one who goes straight to the issues. He's not mincing words. Yes, there are people that probably would say that he has it's double-sided. Sometimes he says this today and the other. But when you look at his track record, he has compared the United States economy. Look at what we left in 2020 compared to what is now. The U.S. over time have been, I mean, recently have a lot of inflation.
Inflation, yes.
So Donald Trump is saying, I have done this before. You know, I'm sure we're gonna do it again. So, but you don't look at the global challenges we're facing in the world. You know, the Ukrainian wars. You know, all of that. People trying to take advantage. The weaker, I mean, the stronger nations trying to take advantage of weaker nations. Donald Trump has always maintained that he's standing. You know, he's always standing for the people. What is ought to be. What is right. So the United Nations know that Donald Trump returning again is also a strong voice, you know, for international peace. So when you look at the fact that he's one of those who is not always scared of confrontation, he's always confronting. And that's why when people were ganging up against him in the last election, you know, we saw what happened. And now the people who, you know, really felt
believed in his policies,
of Biden and the policies of Trump has really spoken today. That, I mean, yesterday, they said, no, we knew how we were. We know what we want. We know the America that we really want, because you know the success of America is also the success of the world. You know, the UK Prime Minister have just congratulated Trump, and I read through the comment section. People were saying, why are you supporting Trump and all of that? The man said, we're trying to maintain the UK and US, you know, relationships, you know, in order for us to advance the war. You know, if Donald Trump has a solution for the war, if Donald Trump has what it takes, you know, to drive the economy of the war, then, I mean, it can never be better than this time compared to Kamala Harris. People said, you are the vice president. What solutions is your party bringing on board? What have you solved? What are the challenges you've addressed? We've seen all the global challenges. Approach. So it looks that Biden was not in any way, you know, leaning support to weaker nations. We saw that clearly. We never saw how they stood tall for people who were passing through a whole lot. But a coming back of Donald Trump is also a strength to the international peace. Yes, he might look threatened, but then let's get a man who can confront issues. Just that's what the U.S. has done.
Yes, let's get a man who can confront issues. This is just more like a football game where you're coming back from behind and then winning the match. This is what is seeming in the elections that just played out yesterday in the United States. I'm talking about the man who assumed, who is now the current president and now the winner of the current election. He took no time to take the stage and give his own winning speech. So let's take a listen, and when we return back, the conversation continues. Stay with us.
Well, I want to thank you all very much. This is great. These are our friends. We have thousands of friends on this incredible movement. This was a movement like nobody's ever seen before. And frankly, this was, I believe, the greatest political movement of all time. There's never been anything like this in this country, and maybe beyond. And now it's going to reach a new level of importance because we're going to help our country heal. We're going to help our country heal. We have a country that needs help, and it needs help very badly. We're going to fix our borders. We're going to fix everything about our country. And we made history for a reason tonight, and the reason is going to be just that. We overcame obstacles that nobody thought possible, and it is now clear that we've achieved the most incredible political thing. Look what happened. Is this crazy?
Yes, there you have it, talking about fixing borders, talking about healing the economy, talking about healing the world at large. That is what the world has been crying for. Since 2020, since the struck of COVID-19, there have been a whole lot of rifts going on in every part of the country. There's been a global economic meltdown, and now the world at this point needs a strong leader. And then it's seeming that the Americans have taken their decisions. Mr. Mike, he made mention of securing the borders, and you know, when he was the president, he had this initiative of building walls. How key do you think, or how swift do you think that will continue?
Yeah, I mean, one of the two strong policies of his campaign, he has based his campaign on economy, he had also based his campaign on immigration.
Yes.
And that those that are really concerned, especially the Nigerian African people who really know the rooms they had to Jackpot and
all of that, yes.
It looks that many people were not happy about all of the policy because, but then, you know, security of the U.S. is important. You know, for people to come into U.S., you know, they should be right through the right processes and the right door. Not people, you know, coming in, you know, through the back doors to distort the security and the peace of the United States. So yes, it's particular about it because he said he has the experience before. He knows what he does. We've also seen one of the immigration officer coming out during his campaign to say, "Oh, Donald Trump is the only man that can do that." So people have testified that Donald Trump wasn't just speaking. What we saw from the campaign was that he wasn't the one speaking really about what he would do. People confirm, you know, from the immigration, from the economic sector, people confirm that this is a man that has experience and understands what it takes, you know, to deliver. So for he has reiterated that he will heal America from the speech he just made earlier. That those that are expecting the condition and the mood of American people, how they feel at the pride of the place in the world. What is the sense of how do they really feel in the world right now? So it was looking as if America is just a normal country. The issues of inflation was very strange. So people in America looking at the employment, they said people are losing their jobs. You know, compared when you look at the 2020 COVID-19 that drove the US and all of that. So Donald Trump said, I was building a structure. I understand what it takes to manage all of that. Look at what Biden has done for the past 4 years. What can you point out to? Kamala Harris, what solution have you also provided? So it was really based on issue. But again, it's dangerous because Donald Trump, all of these promises you've made, the U.S. are not just like Nigeria who are gullible people. I mean, some gullible people, there are situations whereby they can choose to, you know, reject you at any time. So it's not assurance. But what Donald Trump really can go back home to sleep is that I may not want to be the U.S. president again. So he has gotten the last chance, probably, of his life to be the president once again.
What do you think? Looking at Kamala Harris now, it's been ages, you know, that we see a woman attain such power.
Absolutely.
Yes, went to the level of being the vice president of such a great nation as America. And looking at her track record, she has been the DA, and then, you know, a lot of persons have argued, though she has Asian history, Indian and Asian history. Yes, and then a lot of persons have argued that during her time as a district attorney, a whole lot of people of color were sent to jail at a point. So do you think this kind of contributed, her track record now from being a DA and growing, contributed to the fact that she didn't get to win the election?
Yeah, Kamala really pushed racism, I mean, as one of the bases of his campaign, that those that felt, oh, why are you coming to preach racism now? It looks like because you are contesting an election, so that's the reason why you want to use this other angle, you know, to persuade us to vote. So that didn't sell for her. Because the people of America, both the South, I mean, the African Americans and all of those who are not the indigenous people of America, they felt, let's keep that aside. You know, it's really a time of election where we've seen that people that even where I mean, Kamala Harris said, I'm sharing some affiliations with, like, the gender. I mean, I have also seen female people who are supporting Trump away from Kamala. So people would have said, oh, this is a time for us to support our own gender. This is a time to support our own indigenous, you know, my daughter and all of that. But all of those considerations didn't make room in this election. What was really standing out from the voices we've heard and from the vote and the margin that has just been declared is that people said, we want better. We want a better economy. We want things to stabilize. We want America to stand great again. So that determination shows you how far that, yes, elections are, are developing. It shouldn't be on issues. You know, when you look at the fact that in Nigeria, oftentimes we are speaking of religion issue, but we're talking of, you know, tribal results and all of that. So
drug lords and not drug lords.
To bring a blind person from my region to be the president, I would definitely vote because that person is my brother, that person is my sister. But America has said no to that. We just want things to work. And it's also a lesson for Nigeria. Can we also keep behind that? It's time that if we want to elect governors, we want to elect senators, we want to elect members of the House of Reps, even the president, we go, you know, beyond, you know, issues of sentiment, religion, you know, tribalism and all of that, and elect people who can solve the issues. So it's a trust that have been vested on him, and it's time for him to really, really live to their expectations.
A lot of trust have been placed on Donald Trump, and a lot of persons have said Donald Trump handles politics. You know, we all know he's a businessman. And a lot of people say the best approach to handle politics or to handle the country is the way you handle your company. You know, people have said he does handle politics from the previous. So do you think we're expecting to see the same way form of leadership, or there will be a little bit of change?
Yeah, he has really been involved in American struggle. So it looks that Donald Trump really loves America. So people really feel that it projected that they needed someone who understand, you know, their struggles, who understand their challenges, who believe in fixing America, you know, to the future. Not really having to be the president. So there were people that were having a concern. Why did he really want to be a president? From his party, you saw that they had to, you know, elect him from the primaries. So you saw the support base that gave him. So it shows that he has managed, I mean, the political party he has played a good role, a leadership role in the party successfully. For him to gather all of that support, for him to still be the voices that they probably put out there for 2024 election. So it shows that he has accepted. When you look at all of the allegations, impeachment trial, you know, the issues of convicting felons, you know, all of that.
All of that.
We're not voting a felony and all of that. So all of this thing does not matter to the party. So for that, it shows that he's a good politician who understands what it means to base his campaign on issues. And what are the issues? Issues of economy. And you understand that economy, you know, is really what matters in governance, because government is meant to provide, you know, enabling environment for businesses to strive and make lives of people better. So from what we've seen and all indication from the result that have really been out today, Donald Trump really stands for all of this ideology, and he's a good manager. I mean, he's a good politician. We give it to him, because it's not easy to start an election with a woman in this era. Someone, I tell you, to start an election today with a woman in Nigeria, there will be a whole lot of issues. The feminists will take over and all of that consideration. We'll give it to American people, really.
Yes, that's actually great. And then sadly, that's what it looked like, but it almost went towards that route in America, where we saw people like Alicia Keys coming down and saying stuff like, yes, who says a woman can lead? Nobody is saying a woman can lead. We've grown past that.
What are the solution? What are you bringing to the table? That's what America really spoke to.
That's what the result and the election spoke. But we'll be having other angles of this conversation immediately after this break. You all just sit as we dive into other sectors of the conversation. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Time check. It's midday. Then it's Midday Discourse. Midday Discourse is a program that covers trending local and international news, current issues, and human-related topics. Join Samuel Odi weekdays 1 p.m. on Global Television. The discussion starts here.
Yep, many thanks for staying with us. It's an exciting special edition where we explain the just concluded election in the United States of America, where now a new 47th president in the person of President Donald Trump, who was once the 45th president, now the 47th, because when he contested back again in the 2020, Biden and Kamala Harris, knocked him off his seat, and he had a whole lot of back and forth. But now he came back stronger, better, and then he was able to secure the seat again in the White House. So I have someone who I celebrate so much, a seasoned journalist and a big brother, Mr. Uyi Abumofegbe, who just walked into the studio with a blue jacket looking all fly. Thank you so much for joining us to this edition.
I didn't know this conversation was
so, are you surprised about the results?
Okay, first of all, Sam, thank you for having me on the program.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say I'm surprised per se, and I'll say that to say that there are dynamics that shape this election and ultimately the outcome, right? First of all, you want to ask yourself, what are the issues Americans care about? What were the issues that were going to influence the direction, the process, and the outcome of the election?
Yes.
All right. So Americans wanted to talk about abortion, for example. All right, because Trump being a Republican, and of course, for whatever is worth, conservative, even though people will argue that Trump is not a quintessential conservative. That's a philosophical, ideological conversation we can have another day.
Yes.
But Trump is a Republican baseline, right? So Americans want to talk about abortion, and then he says, this might stand on abortion. Kamala Harris from the Democratic stock, so to say, I mean, a liberal, says, this is also my stand, our stand on abortion. What else did Americans want to talk about? Americans also wanted to talk about issues around the country's response to the war in Ukraine, the conflict between, of course, which has not become a full-blown war, Israel and Hamas, which has again stretched to Iran and Lebanon.
Yes.
So Americans wanted to talk about these issues. Of course, Americans also wanted to talk about trade because you can't take away economy from the mix. Americans wanted to talk about trade. Who is trading what? How much of trade are we doing? What's the economy like? How much of jobs are we creating on a month-to-month basis and all of that? Americans also were interested in diplomatic relations, all right? How are we doing in terms of our relations with China, with Russia? Of course, we already have friends across the West, Europe, continental America, and what have you. So Americans wanted to talk about all of these issues. Then Americans wanted to talk about guns. I mean, the elephant in the room for many Nigerians, but for the average American is a basic conversation. All right, so Trump says, an American has the right to protect themselves. You can carry weapons, you can carry arms, as long as you do it within the ambit of the law. But the Democrats are saying, well, we're not saying you can't have arms. Can we not double vet? Can we not be a bit more stringent with the way we sell arms and the people to whom we sell arms, given the number of lives that we lose to school shooting here, school shooting there, people going into the malls and stores and gas stations and shooting and all of that. But again, like I said, all of these issues are going to determine all of this. So when you look at these elements, Sam, to answer your question directly, as it stands today, I'm not surprised that Trump has popped the 47th president of the United States.
Looking at the margins of the election, it was a very, very close one, very tight. And we saw that at some point it almost turned into a gender-based kind of election. So looking at Kamala Harris now and her journey thus far, being mixed, do you think he played a role?
Well, he did, because people have talked about that. Of course, he's not a Caucasian. There's the Jamaican thing, there's the Indian thing. All of these factors were going to play out in the election. Because whether you like it or not, race is a big conversation in America. In fact, you can't talk about the U.S. politics and not talk about race.
Yes.
All right, so it's going to be a factor. But we also realized that for many Americans, it was more about what's the future of the country. Where are we today? Where were we before now? What's the broken link? What did we miss? At what point was it? And given all of this, where should we be heading as a country? Who is that person that can lead us? Remember that even was the basis on which Joe Biden, the incumbent president, had to step back a little for Kamala Harris to step forward.
In terms of age?
Exactly, age, a factor. I mean, Kamala Harris is far younger, a lot of energy, charisma and what have you. So these were going to be factors that will matter, basically. Now, you talked about how that even though Trump ultimately won, it was a tight race. As a matter of fact, a media outlet, a news outlet yesterday called this race knife edge. That's what they called it. So when you hear knife edge, that already gives you a clear idea how tight the race had been. And in the midst of all that, recall, Sam, that Trump never missed his words. He said, look, I am, there was a word he used that he was very, very confident, all right, that he was going to win this race. Of course, as expected, Kamala Harris had also said she would win the race. But let's not forget that there's a history to this whole thing. It didn't start yesterday, the 5th of November. It started several months ago.
Yes.
Recall that there had been an ABC debate. It was actually the inaugural debate, so to speak, between Trump and Kamala Harris. And for many people, they ranked that debate. I mean, if that debate were to be the determining factor of who won this election, I can tell you for free that Kamala Harris would have been the 47th president of the U.S.
Yeah, looking at those debates, those angles, because she made lots of facts, and then it was looking to see if Donald Trump, like, kind of forgot his speech or answers to the questions from ABC at home. But looking at those, based on those debates now, he made mention of, taxation and economy. Donald Trump has, way before he get into politics, has been a businessman.
Right.
And it has been said by a whole lot of analysts have reacted differently and say, but one thing they always repeat is the fact that they see him running the United States of America as a business. Do you think that is the best approach to run a country?
You see, it depends on the circumstance and exactly what you want to accomplish by running that country. I mean, this is a man, for example, by the way, any U.S. president has 4-year term.
Yeah.
So the question is, what do I want to accomplish for the next 4 years? What is most pressing for the everyday American? All right. So if you say he runs the country like a business, I mean, it has to be that serious. Unless you're saying he's exploiting the country, how we can start to have a different narrative to that.
The conversation now, running it as a business now, meaning if he sees someone from the Democrats who has value and who shares a vision,
and he brings them
into his cabinet,
regardless of partisan.
Yes, the fact is, we want to see America grow. We want to see.
We don't care about your political affiliation.
Yes,
just bring value.
Just bring value. So looking at those angles now, how well do you think he's going to do if he does take that route? Because that was the same angle he took while he was the 45th president.
I think for many political ideologists I speak with, whether it's local politics or international, they say that it's called inclusive governance, inclusive politics, where at some point beyond the election and electioneering, you're looking at who has capacity, who has competence, who has skill sets, who has experience to bring value. And that's why you realize that most times they even go beyond political parties, beyond the political space, to bring people who are not even partisan in any way, because they are technocrats who are not in politics. They've never really run for any office. They've never been card-carrying members of political parties. But if you recall, Sam, between 2016 and 2020, when he left office during his first term, Trump had brought in some people who were core businessmen who were not in politics. One of them was a Nigerian, a Yoruba man from Nigeria, right? So, of course, he later would resign voluntarily, but he brought in, from what we understand, that you have competence, you have capacity. I mean, you've proven that much in the world of business on a global scale, whether in construction, in aviation, and whatever. So we want you to make a change in that regard.
Bring your skill set into.
So if he goes that route, I'm sure as long as he does it in the overall interest of the country, and he puts round pegs in round holes, square pegs in square holes, every right-thinking person will align and commend it.
Let's look at Kamala Harris now, and looking at the debates. And what do you think is a shocker? Because we saw a whole lot of celebrities, even the former president, Barack Obama, standing right beside her, followed her to a few states during the campaign. Yes. So do you think Donald Trump played, or would I say the influence of the former president didn't really rub off much on Americans?
You see, endorsements are very important. And I'll take you back a little 8 years down the line, before now. I remember in 2016 when Donald Trump was campaigning vehemently across the U.S., there were many key figures in the Republican Party who had not endorsed him at that time, including former Speaker Paul Ryan. And people were saying, Paul Ryan has got to endorse him. What is he still waiting for? And I remember one time Trump said, I know Paul Ryan will endorse me at the right time. And really, at the twilight of his leaving office, that's Paul Ryan, he endorsed Trump. Whether or not he was absolutely convinced about Donald Trump at the time, I'm not sure, but he endorsed Trump. And the way it plays out for many Americans, if they are not convinced about these things, they don't come out to endorse you. And for a guy like Paul Ryan, vibrant, forward-looking politician that he is, it meant a lot for him to endorse Trump. However, at this point, I think people are looking beyond the optics. They are looking beyond who endorses who. What they are now looking at is who really is sincere about the Americanness that we should be strengthening every day. So beyond Obama and Biden and Hillary Clinton, Bill Clinton rallying around Kamala Harris, it was also about who was going to be more authentic, who was going to be more organic about what they were going to do beyond the rhetorics and the optics and the paparazzi and all of the razzmatazz and what you wanted the media to know, what you wanted the media to see, what you wanted Americans to hear. It was about who would match words with action. And again, that will naturally lead us to some peculiarities associated with President Trump. Because whether you like it or not, look at this campaign, for example. A lot of things have happened over time. I can tell you, Sam, that between that last time when he had that assassination attempt on him, on his life, and when election proper happened, voting proper happened yesterday, a lot of Americans who had either been supporting Kamala Harris or were just, as they call them, holdouts, those who are not so sure, they're just in between, they are undecided, eventually made up their mind to say, look, going forward, I'm going to cast my vote for Trump. Because many of those events just convinced them that there must be something unique about this man that the optical eye may not be seeing just yet.
Yeah, looking at those angles now, maybe that was one of the reasons why he got lots of votes, and then people rallied around him and then made sure he emerged as the 47th president of the United States. Well, on that note, before we, face the next angle of the conversation. So how key or how well have you said, like, we've known that the election has revolved and there are a lot of avenues, there are a lot of ways, even for citizens who are not in America can be able to vote. So how well would you say that played a role in making sure that the Americans got the president that they deemed they deserve?
You're talking about the
electoral reform, the mode, yes,
of voting.
Yes.
You see, again, that will make us delve into what lessons Nigeria can learn from this process.
Yes.
Right? I saw something to the frontline civil society leader in this country. He was talking with Voice of America in Washington a few days ago, and he was talking about what he had learned from the U.S. system and what the U.S. and indeed the West can also learn from the Nigerian system and things like that. And one of the things he did mention is that as it stands right now, America gives you multiple options to cast your vote. So you can cast your vote by post, by mail. You have early voting. Voting has started weeks before the D-Day, as it's called, right? So yesterday was just a big day. So you don't have to shut down the country for one day and lose billions, hundreds of billions because you want to cast votes, and then you're losing lives, you're losing money on both ends. As they say, you're burning the candle on both ends and things like that. So for America, when I saw 82 million votes by mail, I said, hold on a second. If we combined all the votes from all the political parties in Nigeria, 2015, 2019, 2023, all the political parties, not just the major ones, how much does it come to? Of course, you can also talk about population. America is doing over 350 million people. But this is not primarily about population. It's about the willingness
to come out
to vote as against the apathy that we normally see across Africa, particularly in Nigeria. So people had options to go cast their votes. Of course, we saw early voting happening all over the place. So you can take a lunch break and go cast your vote, come back to work like nothing has happened. And all of that. But in Nigeria, everybody has to wait for a particular Saturday to go out. Yes, to answer your question very straightforwardly, it did play a role, and it's part of what led to where we are today.
Well, thank you so much, Mr. Oyabunfegbe, for your inputs and your depth analysis of today's conversation. Thank you for joining us on Midday Discuss.
Pleasure.
Yes, and we'll be going on another quick break, and then when we return back, we'll be having another angle of the conversation where we'll be extracting how Donald Trump in his speech says he is not going to create new wars, he's going to end existing ones. So we're going to be having a conversation with someone who is depth and has more knowledge about the crisis that has been going on within Ukraine and Russia, as well as the war going on in the Middle East. Stay with us, we'll be right back.
Time check. It's midday. Then it's Midday Discourse. Midday Discourse is a program that covers trending local and international news, current issues, and human-related topics. Join Samuel Odi weekdays 1 p.m. on Global Television. The discussion starts here.
Yes, many thanks for staying with us. Now we are about to get into another angle of the whole conversation about what's really happening in the Middle East and how the 47th President of the United States of America would be able to, see on how he can be able to bring peace and calmness within those regions. I have with me here again in the studio, Mr. Ramsey Enoch Abo. Thank you so much for joining.
The pleasure, it's mine.
Yes, so you are big on diplomatic issues like this. So, okay, let me get your take on the 47th President of the United States, Donald Trump Jr. What's your reaction? Are you happy? Are you excited for him?
A lot of people are happy, so I won't be an exception.
Okay.
And my kind of person is that whoever emerges on the throne, especially for the seat of the president, I am happy with the person because I am always positive. Okay, and I look at Trump as someone who is going to bring a lot of transformations to America. He's been there before.
Yes.
So at least he knows one or two.
He's someone coming in with
vice president.
Yes.
She has passed through the place before. As a vice president of the United States of America, I cannot say categorically that she's been there. She has passed through the
She
place.
was sitting on the passenger seat.
Passenger seat.
Yes.
Thinking she was going to sit at the
driver's
seat, but then it didn't happen. But it was a good run.
Yes, it was really close.
See, Trump will sit down after this election, and if I were Trump, I would make her a member of my cabinet. If I was Trump, because Kamala Harris have it. She has it as a woman. But then I think from the Electoral College and the Americans, finally they have Trump as the 47th president of the United States of America.
Yes, talking about Kamala Harris, she's a very, very strong woman because it takes a woman that is really strong to be able to be a district attorney and find your way all through of being the vice president of a great nation like United States of America. Kudos to her. It was a very, very good run. She gave Donald Trump a run for his money.
Good run.
Yes, so now there's a whole lot of issues, and then in his speech, he made mention of the fact that he's not going to start wars, but he's looking to end existing wars. How do you think Donald Trump would be able to achieve this, looking at the fact that those countries that are having this crisis are not just mere countries, these are top world countries?
Top world countries.
Yes.
Talking about the Palestine, talking about Israel, talking about Russia, talk about Ukraine.
Yes.
These are big boys.
Yes. So how can he sit in a room? What gave him that courage to say, I'm going to categorically end it? So how well do you think he can be able to achieve that?
We're talking about the United States of America here. It's either you like US or you don't like them, but they remain US irrespective of anybody's opinion. That's what they've been. I was speaking with someone and I said, hey, come on. Everyone in every part of the world is interested in this election because it's either you are benefiting politically or economically or otherwise.
Yes.
Everyone have one or two links to the United States, and that is the same thing that is applicable to these countries fighting. If you look at, I was speaking with the Palestinian ambassador to Nigeria, and we're talking, and from the handwriting on the wall, it is obvious that there could be room for peace. But then who is going to make this peace happen?
Who is going to drive the conversation?
Who is going to drive the conversation? Who is going to call who to the round table? Who will make the president, Putin, come to the round table and say, okay, let's talk? So these are some of the things we consider. Donald Trump, you know him, you know what he can do.
Yes.
Even before now, he has said something about, especially the Russian and Ukraine war.
You know, he predicted it while he was about leaving office. You know, that something like this was going to happen. Yes.
So he must have sat down to put up strategies, things that could be done to curtail this war. Because war, it's not good. Some persons were saying, hey, this war may escalate. Some people predicted, but no. This war, don't be surprised that everyone is going to come to the round table. What do you want? What's the problem? I'm sorry. Let's just shed our sword and let there be peace. It is possible. I believe Donald Trump can do it, even though it might not be immediately.
Yeah, talking about immediate, because I was about to ask you how soon or how swift this will be, but you answered that question already. So talking about border protection and the economy, because Donald Trump based his campaign around economy and as well as protecting the borders. And now the inflation in the US and job creation is also a thing of concern. How do you think he's going to, as a businessman that he is, we all know that Donald Trump is a businessman, how do you think he's going to, effect positive change within those sectors?
Yeah, Donald Trump, like you said, you've rightly spoken. Donald Trump is not new when it comes to business.
Yes.
And one thing that Donald Trump will not play with is the economy of the United States of America.
Yeah.
Then, talking about inflation, sometimes inflation comes without notice.
Yes.
But when you have good economic plan, you know what to do. Because what makes you an economist, okay, from our basic knowledge and from our association and research, and we've read as a matter of fact, what makes you an economist is the ability to predict and put up precautions, ability to study the trends of an economy, of a nation, to know where it's heading. In case this happens, this can come up to cushion the effect, because when inflation comes, it takes a little while for you to curb it, but there are things you can put in place for the effect.
Yes.
Not to be serious. There is no country of the world that has not experienced inflation.
Yeah.
But then, what's the aftermath? Not like some parts of the world where they do maybe damage control. They wait for it to happen, then they start doing damage control. United States is not like that. And the caliber of Donald Trump's president is not someone that will wait until things deteriorate. And let me tell you, up till now, Donald Trump, until tomorrow, is a businessman.
Yeah, fact.
Until tomorrow, is a businessman. So he will do everything possible to make sure businesses thrive, okay, in the United States.
Okay, what cue do you think the Nigerian electoral body should take out of the election that was just concluded in the United States as we wrap up?
You're asking me a very tough question. You're asking me a very tough question the second time. Well, Samuel, as a matter of fact, as a matter of fact, not that Nigerians don't know what to do and how to conduct election, but the cabals, the people who want it by all means, whether they are qualified or not. Do you see what Biden did?
Yeah.
Do you see what happened after that campaign? Do you see how he stepped down
quietly,
honorably, and forever? It's gonna be in history.
Yes.
History has it that this happened, even though Kamala didn't win.
Yes.
And you know who Goodluck Jonathan is today when it comes to elections around the world,
yes,
as an observer,
yes,
just because of a little thing he did by stepping down and honorably congratulating his opponent during the 2015 election. See, there are pertinent things that we can learn from elections around the world, but these people who are eager for power, who are just very hungry for power, who are selfish and greedy. Some of them, not all of them, as a matter of fact, who want to do everything, whether they will tell you it's free and fair. And at the end of the day, you put 1, 2, 3 together, you know that this is not free and fair. But as a matter of fact, I think so much to learn from the US election. It means democracy can actually come to stay, because it's government of the people, for the people, and by the people. The Democrats, in fact, everyone, everyone who wants a peaceful election can have it. Okay, so INEC, I think I need to call INEC.
Yes.
You didn't want to it doesn't speak well for our country when you go on social media and you hear people saying like, if INEC was in US,
something else would have happened,
would have won, so many things.
Yes.
It is not good for our country. So I know so many take home. They must have taken so much from the United States election, and we want to see those things come to play in real time.
Well, we have an election coming up, I think, just in a week's time in Nigeria, an off-cycle election, and then we are hoping, in line with what the electoral body here in Nigeria must have picked out from the election in the US, will be able to have a free, a fair, and a credible election. Mr. Ramsey, well, thank you so much for joining on the special edition of Midday Discuss. Thank you so much for all of your input.
It's mine.
Yes, and then that's how much time will permit us to take on today's special edition of Midday Discuss. Tomorrow we'll bring you the usual editions of the program Midday Discuss. My name is Samuel Odi, and a very big thank you to the entire production team, Mr. Kelvin Gift and Mr. Sebastian, the cameraman, for making today's production seamless. Thank you so much all, and then see you all tomorrow. Bye for now.
Time check. It's midday. Then it's Midday Discourse. Midday Discourse is a program that covers trending local and international news, current issues, and human-related topics. Join Samuel Odi weekdays 1 p.m. on Global Television. The discussion starts here.